in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 298. Mr. Samich. For a second, I was like, mute him. No, you got. You're feeling a little under the weather. It sounds like you had a little too much fun golfing when you were out last week.
Yeah, man. Family reunions plus, 3 a.m. drinking nights and 8 a.m. golf rounds usually equate to not the best shape the following week. So a little bit under the weather, fighting off what we're calling the crud and trying to get it to cleanse out of the system. So if you see me mute and then cough on screen, that's probably what's going on over here. But we're going to fight through it, and we're going to talk about some horse racing for the next hour. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, Mike Samich is powering through because we have an epic weekend from, let's be honest, I love Del Mar, but Saratoga stole every bit of my attention this weekend. So much history being made, magical moments, big cashes, lots of fun stuff to talk about. I'm really excited to get into it. So right away, what's the best thing that you saw this weekend?
I'm going to kind of go – I'm going to go twofold. First off, Steve Asmussen, congratulations. Awesome to see him do it at Saratoga. I thought that was really cool to see him get the job done there. But not just that. It was with a horse that his own family helped turn out. It was with Santana up, 4 Winchell Thoroughbreds when he was able to win the race on a 2-year-old. All of that, I think, is absolutely incredible, right? I like the fact that we had all of that tied in together. And for him to do it with his family there was absolutely amazing. I thought Naira did a great job, the Saratoga Live show did a great job of trying to be able to really encompass what this meant. And they tried to get his parents on there, but failed with the media side of it, the technical side of it. So got to work on that a little bit more, maybe test before going on air. But did a great job of kind of showcasing what a big moment this was and how incredible it was. And I don't remember who put this up. It was someone put up a tweet. I apologize for not remembering the name. But if you win 300 races for 30 straight years, you are still over 400 races away from breaking this record. Just to put it into context, right? And it's hard to win 300 races a year, let alone do it for 30 straight years. And that's what this man has done. He's going to go over 10,000. We talked about it, how incredible it is where he wins at the lowest level to the highest level. Absolutely wonderful job. And it's going to be interesting to see how high he goes here and if he gets up to that 11,000 number or not. But this is one of those records that's probably unbreakable at this point.
Well, and that leads into the first one burning question from Mike's favorite turf trainer, Steve Asmussen. Will his training wins record mark ever be broken? I say no, and it sounds like you're with me on this one.
I'm not going to say never because someday there will be someone that comes along that wants to do what he is doing. And there are trainers that are similar to him that are kind of pushing out there. But this one seems pretty damn untouchable with anyone that's currently training in the world right now. Like this is going to happen with someone who, decides to come up and puts years and years and years in and plays that low-level claimer game because he starts so many more horses than Chad Brown. He starts so many more horses than Todd Pletcher in a year because he is at Lone Star. He is at Remington. He is at, everywhere, right? Churchill Downs. He's at Oaklawn. He's at Saratoga. And he's got all of these different strings, which allows him to start so many horses and be able to accumulate the stats he's been able to accumulate that it's got to be exhausting to do it. He has to have so much love for the sport to be able to actually do that because of the time he puts in and the number of horses that he deals with on a yearly basis.
Well, that's the thing is Steve Asmussen on Saturday had 14 horses entered at 5 different tracks around the country, and that's just a Saturday for him. This guy, I'm with you, Mike. I think this is something, at least in our lifetime, I don't think we'll ever see it broken because you're also seeing a reduction every year of the number of horses in training, the number of races being run. We're seeing tracks be downsized. We're losing Arlington after this year. So I think it's just one of those things. If you play the numbers game, I would bet this never gets broken. For me, this was right up there with watching Wayne Gretzky set the all-time goals record or points record. I should say points because Ovechkin's actually going to catch him with the goals, it looks like. But this is just an incredible accomplishment. I'm happy, like you said, Mike, that it happened at Saratoga. He was there in person. It was a gun runner horse right? Was it a gun runner horse that got the job done? Stellar Tap is Tap It.
Yeah.
And it just Wicked is
that's the gun runner.
That right. Okay, Wicked Halo. Okay, see, he won so many damn races because he won the Adirondack on Sunday. We're not even going to talk about it. This is really cool. So they put together this custom lawn jockey here. If you're watching the live or the replay, On screen, you see it there. It's got it's got the Asmussen A, and it's blue with in a diamond right there. North America's winningest trainer is right there on the sign. So my one burning bonus question for you, Mike: if you were gifted a custom lawn jockey ornament, what would you want your sign to say? And it's got to be somewhat factual. Don't say North America's winningest trainer better than Asmussen. That doesn't count.
Man, if I got my own sign,
Yeah.
oh. I don't even know, man. Put me on the spot. I can't. I would probably put something goofy on there versus something actual factual.
Well, sure.
I mean, I might even put violence, or like
Yes.
top five sires. Like maybe like put Jimmy Creed, violence. Put like 5 of the sires that I like, something like
The
that.
factor.
The factor, or it'd be fun to just put the horses that meant the most to me. So put like Concern on there, put Cigar on there. Just kind of the horses that got me into the game and the sport and got me excited about it.
I think you should put "There's cause for concern" or "Cause for concern." That's a great one for you.
That Durkin call was incredible. Yeah, that one. We probably talk about that specific race more times on the show than any other race. And it's from 1989. I'm sorry, 1993. It's kind of crazy like that.
For me, I think I would just pretty much say money long and leave it at that. It's one of those things that if you know, you know. Best thing that I saw, Mike, it's pretty easy. If it wasn't going to be Asmussen winning, breaking the record for all-time winningest trainer, I gave out the winning pick 4 ticket for $36 on last week's show. That was pretty awesome. So thank you. It was thanks. Yeah, it was pretty great. We'll get into a little bit some of the other races, but it all hinged on the third leg. I singled. It was a coupled entry. It was Musical Heart and Danny California. I liked Musical Heart better. I thought he was going to go gate to wire. He scratched, and they had different trainers, and I could be like, oh, well, this is clearly a single now. The nice thing is, Mike, they were 5-2 on the morning line as the favorite before the scratches. You take Musical Heart out, suddenly Danny California was 6-1. It was a very nerve-wracking moment until off the turn. I pretty much knew about the 3/16 pole that it was going to be a winner for me, and I was alive in the last leg to all. So it's a good feeling when you get to that last leg. You know what, we talk about this a lot. You just got to root home whichever one is the best price, and whichever horse is in front at that moment. You're like, come on, go, come on, 70-1 shot. With live to $5,400, ended up paying a little over $800, I think $833, but it paid on the $36 ticket, so I was very happy about that one.
Yeah, and then the key to that sequence was what the first horse in the first race, that 9 horse that gets home at 21-1, and able to absolutely blow it up there for you. We're going to talk about all 4 of those races, so not going to go too much into it. We'll talk about 3 of the 4 races. We're not going to talk about the last, but that is a great use of the all button in the last one there, where it's just having an all button in the last race is one of the best things when you're gambling, because you're just like, I can root for everybody. It's just, you sit back, you relax. It's a non-sweat 30 minutes. It's just how much you're going to make, not if you're going to make money. It's one of those great situations when you're betting horses. I
knew a lot of our followers were playing the ticket, or at least were paying attention, because Danny California wins. I think the last horse is still rounding the turn, and I'm already getting blown up with congrats, great job, what are you alive to? I'm like, I don't know, I got to look at the wheel pace, but I was so excited. It was a lot of fun. So it's nice that not only did I give out the ticket here, and if you were playing along, hopefully you cashed with it, but Andrew, I thought, was a great sub-guest last weekend, Andrew Champagne, so special thanks to him again for coming on. And hey, listen, 2 weeks ago when we did the Pick 4 sequence, you and I went 3 for 4. Andrew hit it for like $12, and it paid almost $1,200. So I feel like Andrew gave me a little bit of good luck, and we'll see if we can parlay some of that good luck into later this week. Yeah, those were some interesting sequences on Saturday too. You had the Pick 5 that ends with Nick's Go, pay $500 or $480, something really cheap with that 21-1 shot. And then you had the late Pick 5, not the All Stakes Pick 5, pay over $3,000 with that same 21-1 shot. Amazing what the difference is in those two sequences. Well, on today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the races from Saratoga. Lots of big questions to ask Mike that don't just involve trainer Steve Asmussen. Let's get into it, buddy. Riders up. All right, Mike, the first race we're going to take a look at Saratoga on Saturday. Race 7, this is going to be the Grade 2 Glens Falls Stakes, and a filly that we haven't talked about in a while. Since April, Warlike Goddess comes sweeping up, third straight win. She'd won 2 Grade 3 races coming into this event. Now she wins a Grade 2, steps up the ladder very impressively here to win the Glens Falls, Mike. My question for you is, after seeing what she did against a bunch of American-based horses here, does Glens Falls winner Warlike Goddess have any chance in hell to beat the Euros if we get to the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf?
I'm going to say yes. I think this was the... I don't know if I should say most impressive. This was the 1A to the 1B most impressive, or 1B to the 1A most impressive performance of the weekend. The chart for this is absolutely phenomenal. If you look at it, this horse, Warlike Goddess, was sitting in dead last place until the second to last, until the top of the stretch, essentially. But you look at the chart, and it starts 7th, quarter mile into the race, 7th, half mile into the race, 7th, 3/4 mile into the race, 7th, head of the stretch, 1st. Yep. She passed all 6 horses in between that one different portion of the chart, and literally just swept up. And the pace wasn't fast, right? Like you kind of felt like she was in trouble there, sitting at the back of the pack. And then you watched what Leperoux did in the replay, and that was nothing. I mean, this was like zero ass from Warlike Goddess to circle the entire field, go around everybody, and just storm home down the lane. I thought this was wildly impressive. Gets a 99 buyer, gets it under wraps, matches her career highest buyer, which she ran 99 last time out as well. Or, I'm sorry, this is her career highest buyer, up from a 97 last time out. And this horse is just taking a step forward every single time. And you know what? English Channel, 4-year-old, still getting better. I don't think we've seen the best from Warlike Goddess. We definitely haven't seen the tank emptied yet with Warlike Goddess, which I think is definitely important to note. I would be shocked if she can't take 1 or 2 additional steps forward off of this effort.
Well, if you look at her record, too, and she's 4 years old. She didn't debut until last year in September, so she's very late getting to it. But like you said, English Channel, she's, this horse, if she already wasn't a multiple grade stakes winner, she should be running at 6-7 with no real trouble. The one time she has a bad race, it's the very one. It's her first start as a 4-year-old. She's going to Mile 316 to Gulfstream Park, and she's coming off of a layoff about 4 months, Mike. It seemed like maybe she just needed a race to get into her. Sometimes Bill Mott will have his horses that sometimes he needs to race them into condition a little bit. But this time she comes off of a 3.5-month break, and she gets the job done and wins just as easily as she did in the Bewitched, which, by the way, if you go back and watch that replay from Keeneland when she wins the Bewitched, Leperoux doesn't even move until about the 8th pole. Like, she's moving to the front, and right when she gets the lead, he goes, okay, now engage, and then she draws off a win. This horse is phenomenal. People in the chat seem to agree with you. Ross brings up her turn of foot suits Del Mar perfectly. I couldn't agree more. When she gets a firm cut of ground like this, I mean, she just is going to explode. I think right now she might be the only American who has a real strong chance in the Filly Mare Turf, unless we could see a gate-to-wire winner. Cone Lima wins the Saratoga Derby on Sunday. So, Mike, my one bonus question regarding the Filly Mare Turf division is: Cone Lima the best 3-year-old female turf runner in North America, and does she have any shot in the Filly Mare Turf?
I mean, at this point, you got to say yes. I was a Cone Lima hater for a little while there. I thought she could only win on the lead, and then she missed the break, and Paco was able to get her home. And then, look, this race was impressive with the win here, not just because of the fact that this field had a couple Europeans in it, and you had the higher power, which was the second place horse, or higher. Was it power? Can't remember. Anyway, it was a Chad Brown horse who had slowly progressed forward each race. And this
Higher
is the
Truth.
Higher Truth. There it is. This is the second and third place finishers behind Santa Monica last time at Belmont as well. This really showed how good, so Santa Monica's a really good horse. She blew that field away. These two pretty much beat this field handily here. And because of that, and because we've seen Cone Lima be able to do it now for a while at different over different race courses, at different distances, I don't see how you can't say she's the best 3-year-old turf filly in America right now. Obviously, that could change. Obviously, it's got tougher when you face the older horses, and there's some Europeans I would probably take over her. But if you're going specifically North American turf horse, I definitely think she is. Can I flip it around to you and do one burning question to you?
Absolutely. I love this. One
burning question. If Flavien Prat ran the entire meet at Saratoga, how many races would he win the jockey title by?
I'll go by 7 because he'll occasionally go back to Del Mar and race Pacific Classic weekend. So I'll say he'll give them a handicap, and it'll just be by 7.
Yeah, I mean, he looked so dominant out there. And you look at Luis Saez, who's currently winning the jockey standings there. He has probably won 7 races that he's stolen on the front, 2 turns on the turf. And you see what Pratt's able to do with a horse like Cone Lima when he's able to get out front, and the New York jockeys are not as aggressively attacking those front runner horses, especially 2 turns on the turf. You're able to get away with a lot of fractions. I mean, he would be very dangerous as just a more aggressive version of a lot of the, quote unquote aggressive New York riders.
Well, another perfect example is one race prior to this, the Glens Falls, was the Lure on Saturday. He was on Flavius, and Flavius is a horse that's driven me nuts more than once, but Pratt he learned from riding him before. You just got to put the horse into the game and let him go, and ends up getting the job done. I'm very excited as a Flavien Prat fanboy to see him do well when he goes to New York. I'm just nervous because he's doing so well, Mike, that all it takes is one jockey agent to be like, hey, man, you're beating the Saez, you're beating the Ortiz brothers, Castellano, Velasquez. You should come out here full time. Look at the purses, look at the amount of days, look at the number of horses you can ride that you can't get in California. I'm just afraid I'm going to lose him, Mike. I don't want to lose him.
I mean, if I'm a jockey, no hate on Southern California. I'd rather be in New York. I'd rather be in doing the Gulfstream circuit, because I think you end up with more big-time horses, and it gives you more quick flight options if you want to go to Churchill for a day, if you want to go down to Pimlico for a day. It gives you more options in that sense. And if you think about the horses that are running at Belmont versus the horses that are running at Santa Anita on the pre and post Del Mar and Saratoga meets, you have more quality horses running in New York than you do out in California. I would rather be in New York if I was a jockey, just because I think you have more financial upside.
I agree with you. The one argument I'll make for California, well, 2. 1, we've got better weather. Don't have rain days. What are those? Also, you're the king out here. I mean, this is the second biggest circuit compared to Saratoga. He's the king. I mean, he's winning by, I think, 10 to 15 in the jockey scenes in Del Mar. He's spending every other weekend in goddamn New York. He's dominating them so much that why – just go to Saratoga on the big days, do what you're doing like this. Go back to Del Mar, win 4-5 a card. Great point here from Ross in the chat, by the way. Cone Lima lost the Belmont Oaks. She's going to get to wire. She lost by half length. Santa Barbara, which was the same day that Bolshoi Ballet won the Belmont Derby, Santa Barbara comes in for Aidan O'Brien and gets the job done. I think she's a huge upgrade now as well, as Ross mentions here. And one fact for you, Mike, 4 of the last 5 Filly Mare Turf winners were 3 years old. All 5 of them were European bred. I think Ross is onto something here that Santa Barbara has a huge upgrade come Filly Mare Turf time.
I fully agree. I think this series, the Turf Tierra and the Turf Triple Crown that New York's doing, I think it's interesting because I think some of the European trainers this year really realized, holy crap, there's a lot of money and these are weaker fields than what we're facing over in Europe. And we're seeing some of the better horses come over here now, which I think is great from a handicapping perspective, because it gives us a little bit more of an idea and insight to look into how good these Europeans are against the Americans here on a major turf day. Before we jump on, I want to just talk about a couple things we have in the chat here. First off, Dennis brings up, how many horses did Pratt ride that were over 8-1? If he rode all the time, he would never ride a horse over 8-1 at Saratoga. That's the thing. He would immediately be getting the top Mott mounts, the top Pletcher mounts, the top Chad Brown mounts, the top Maker mounts. He would get all of those mounts immediately. I would be shocked if he's rarely on a horse over 8-1 or 10-1. You don't see Irad on a horse over 8-1 or 10-1 a lot either. And I would be interested if you asked, a lot of times the Athletic just did their quarterback tiers, and they talked to 50 executives inside the NFL and coaches and asked, where would you rank these quarterbacks? But the guy who does it does not give any of the names that he asks. I'd be really interested to hear if you went to the trainers, you said, I'm not going to pass this information out. Who's the best jockey on turf? And who they would say? And I have a feeling here in New York, you'd hear even people say Flavien Prat is the best jockey when you're on turf. And I think that you would see a lot of those mounts equate to that if you did come to New York. The same thing here where Ross specifically says, well, why didn't he ride in every race? A lot of times these mounts, especially in the lower level claiming races, are already set before those before you find out that Pratt's coming in for the weekend. So he's only going to ride in pickup mounts or mounts that he pre-planned to ride in, which are generally going to be the stakes mounts. So if he was specifically in New York, he would be riding in every race like he does in California. I mean, he takes 1 or 2 races off a day in California. That's it. You'd see the same thing from here in New York if his book was here full time. But because it's not, you're generally only going to see him in the stakes race and then in pickup mounts.
Well, and I mean, it's to the point that Chad's using. Chad Brown's 1A runner. Like Chad puts Irad on his top Klarovich horse. He puts Flavien on another Klarovich horse. Like he loves Seth Klarman and Klarovich. He's not going to put some bad jockey on there. And I kind of agree with Nick Feldman here. Imagine all the Chad Castellano horses that could go to Flavien Prat. Javier Castellano might be out of a job if Flavien Prat comes to New York. I'll be honest. I think Castellano's going to have to relocate if Prat comes out there because he's going to take all those mounts.
I would be worried if I was Junior Alvarado, man. You have all those Mott horses that Alvarado gets to ride on. Pratt would fit Mott's turf horses very, very well.
Well, Bill Mott's a loyal guy, but I think that really would test his loyalty there. Let's move on to the next race. We'll talk about the Grade 1 test stakes here. You have Bella Sofia powering away in her graded stakes debut. Comes home a very strong winner of race 8. Not only does she get her first stakes win, her graded stakes win, it's a Grade 1 worth $500,000. Mike, we're looking ahead to the Filly and Mare Sprint. This race has been a good example of horses that are going to be very strong come Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint time. All 3 of the last winners of the Filly and Mare Sprint were age 3, which is ironic because the previous 11 runnings of the Filly and Mare Sprint all won by older horses. So, my one burning question, do you foresee anyone from the test making an impact this fall? Because, let's be honest, last year's winner Gamine still looking pretty damn strong.
Yeah, I'm going to go no. This wasn't that strong of a field when you look at it. I mean, search results, it ends up going off of your favorite, and you look at search results, and I'm not sure that, going the 7 furlong distance is necessarily what she wants. I think search results is more of that 2-turn horse, and you saw that in the Kentucky Oaks where she went eyeball to eyeball with Malathat there. Mm-hmm. I think that this was kind of pushing the lower limit of what she wants to do. That 7 isn't a bad distance for her, but it's just not that good, especially when you have those faster fractions and she's got to try and chase behind those and then close into them. She ends up running a decent third place here and closing from mid-pack to do so, but it's just a different world when you're going 22-4, 45-3, 109 versus what you're seeing in 2-turn pace races where you're seeing that 47 and change half mile, the 112 for 6 furlongs. You're going to have a little bit more toward the end. So I think that this is just not quite in her wheelhouse. And when you go past her in this race, then you look at, okay, well, let's look at Super Sensational. Well, Pratt got off Super Sensational to ride always Karina. So how good is Super Sensational really? She picked up the pieces more than anything else at Belmont last time out. Bella Sofia ran really well here. Ran a 101 buyer, big improvement. You look back, last time she lost was to Australasia, who's done nothing wrong. Has won race after race after race. But this is one of those horses where I'm just not sure how much more upside there is. And this is a division that's just brutal. I mean, there's a couple horses at the top that are just awfully tough.
Including Malathat, who you mentioned. I think this is, let's think in 2 turns, but I think one thing we learned is that the Mother Goose, I think we can scratch that race off for just about everybody. Zajal wins that as a big upset at 18-1. Always Karina comes back here. Well, always Karina's 4th off the board, well behind the winner, and Zajal even farther back. So I think that race can be scratched off. This was a nice race from Bella Sofia. She was stretching out from 6 to 7 for the first time. Handled it well. I think that it seemed to me like speed was playing pretty comfortably on Saratoga's dirt over the weekend. So if you had good speed like you had here with Bella Sofia, I think that was a big reason for it. For me, I think search results, I think a 1-turn mile at Belmont, at Churchill, I think that's where she's going to excel the most. 2 turns, I remember from the Gazelle is she was looking good until she hit the stretch in the Gazelle at Aqueduct, and then she hit a wall. She still wins comfortably, but she beat a bunch of bad horses. She did look good in the Kentucky Oaks, so yep. I think Chad Brown has some versatility there, at least.
Yeah, I mean, we got to remember this division has Cece. This division has Estilo Talentoso. This division has Bell's the One. I mean, this division has Gamine, as you mentioned earlier. This is probably one of the more loaded divisions up top, where you just have like 3 or 4 ultra-talented horses that are scary and tough to run against. So it just takes a lot to be able to compete with those.
Ross, you got some good comments in here. I'm glad to have everybody in the chat. He says, imagine a fast track like Del Mar. No way anybody passes Bella Sofia. Well, she just has to beat Gamine for the lead. And is she fast enough to beat Gamine for the lead? The fastest she's gone opening quarter was 21.9. That says no. That's not fast enough to beat Gamine to the lead.
And don't forget, Gamine got beat to the lead last year at the Breeders' Cup.
Oh, that's right. Serengeti? No. Was it Serengeti Empress?
I think it was Serengeti Empress. And then she got absolutely stomped. I mean, Gamine ends up winning by 8 or 9. This just draws away. So yeah. Gamine is one of those horses where because of Bob Baffert and everything going on there, I think a lot of people hate on the horse and not sure how legitimate it is, and all that's aside. Like, the horse has been a monster every time it's stepped on the track. And Gamine's been able to win up front. Gamine's been able to come from off the pace. And it's harder and harder as someone who likes to beat favorites to try and come up with a reason to try and beat Gamine. I tried to beat her last year at the Breeders' Cup. That was a bad idea. I'm not sure I'm going to do that this year because she's been versatile enough. And even though this division is deep and you do see a ton of talent, we haven't seen anyone as talented as her yet.
I think what you and I both learned from last year's Breeders' Cup, Mike, is as much as we might hate the trainer, don't go against Bob Baffert speed horses. Mean, authentic. I mean, look, I think a big reason you and I did well at the Kentucky Derby is because we learned from last year with authentic is just suck it up and bet it. We'll move on to the turf division here. The Saratoga Derby was an exciting race coming. You had Bolshoi Ballet, who won the Belmont Derby. No horse has won all three legs of the turf triple or the turf tiara that you brought up. So we're going to the Saratoga Derby. Bolshoi Ballet looked like a very strong winner. Andrew Champagne singled him to start off the pick 4 ticket. And yet, State of Rest is not how I would describe this division, Mike, because State of Rest comes in 21-1 upset for trainer Joseph O'Brien. Johnny Velasquez aboard. This was an amazing trifecta because you had 21-1 over, I think, 11-1 over a 10-1. Bolshoi Ballet finishes 4th. So my one burning question, looking at the Breeders' Cup turf race and the division, how did the results of the Saratoga Derby influence Mike Samich's opinion of the male turf division?
I think this division's wide open. I think that we are seeing how much better the Europeans are in the last two races that we've seen. And I wasn't that impressed with Bolshoi Ballet. I thought that was the least impressive of those runs.
Weird race.
When the original one, the Bolshoi Ballet won, I thought that was the least impressive of those two. I thought Santa Barbara was much more impressive in the Philly version. Mm-hmm. I thought Bolshoi Ballet was a pretty weak favorite here. I went 5 deep in this race, and my dumbass left the 9 off, which is the only European I didn't use.
Oh, Michael, no.
And that's what cost me the pick, like sweeping both pick 5s, the pick 4, everything. And it was one of those situations where it was just like, I look back at it afterward, I'm like, you're an idiot, Mike. Why are you not just using every European and then throwing in the one who I think qualified as a European here? I'm not sure everyone realized that. It's the first time out in North America for the Clement Barn with I read up. Mm-hmm. To me, this is like, well, this clearly is a European-dominated division, right? And I don't know why you kind of move away from there. But yeah, to me, that Bolshoi Ballet was the weaker of the favorites here in this entire sequence, just because of that last race, the number that came back, and the number of new shooters that came in here. Crazy to see Joseph O'Brien win one, the son of the legend. And he literally looked like he was 12 at the race. I was like, holy crap. He's like wildly impressive to be that successful at that age. Imagine like being in your 20s and be able to win a race like this. Huge day for him.
Not only that, I'm pretty sure, because he also trained Iridessa, who won the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf 2 years ago at Santa Anita. I think he's ridden Breeders' Cup winners. Either he or his younger brother, Donacha. One of the two of them was a Breeders' Cup winning jockey, grade 1 in Europe, I think won at Ascot, and then became a trainer. I can't remember if that was Joseph or Donacha, but one of those two. Yeah, just crazy, that family, the bloodlines, the ability with the horses. Soldier Rising is the runner-up you talked about from the Clement Barn. I thought this was the most impressive of the American-based runners. Especially for him to be making such a strong effort. First time in North America. Clement wins at 18% with that angle, but only 13% with experienced runners making their first start. So this was a great effort. Adding the blinkers, you got Irad Ortiz Jr. on. I think that was a big one as well. He's fun to watch. Bolshoi Ballet, I don't know what was with that trip. I don't know. He was going for the lead, and then Chellis went for it, and he still kept going. And they went 21-4 in the opening quarter, and he didn't look comfortable. And at that point, I was like, Bolshoi's going to lose. Can I get one of those other Europeans home? And I just went with all 4 Europeans because I was like, they're better than the Americans. So let me just use the European-based runners. From the Americans, out of this, Soldier Rising, the best one you want moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Soldier Rising I wouldn't call it an American horse. I guess it's now an American-based horse. It's kind of like when Chad Brown brings these horses over, and they ran a couple times in Europe, and now they're like running in America. Like, well, it's kind of a European horse. It's just running in America now. Yeah, I was impressed with Soldier Rising. I used Soldier Rising. I thought Soldier Rising got a fairly good trip, was able to kind of cut through some traffic and run through on the inside. Maybe getting out in the clear would have been a little bit better just to kind of roll home outside. I'm not sure that Soldier Rising necessarily knew that he wasn't in the lead at certain parts of the stretch because he thought he kind of got through that inside place. But I do think Soldier Rising is one that you want back. I thought the horse took a nice step forward and should be even better second off the layoff, second time out. This division is wide open, though. This is going to be all about trip. It's crazy that they went 21 and change for the opening quarter. I still am not sure I believe that was what they did, especially when you go 47 for the half. So they ran wildly slow in that second quarter. But this, like you said, the pace was messy in this race. You kind of didn't really understand what Bolshoi Ballet was doing up front. You kind of don't understand why they went that fast. And it just set up for a cavalry charge. And you're just hoping that your horse was the one that was going to be coming storming from the back. And in this case, it was State of Rest at 21-1.
I agree with Ross and Dennis. They're on the similar thoughts here in the chat. Pretty much play all the Euros in domestic spending. In the 2 turf races, all Euros, domestic spending with the other Euros in the male one. I think you'll be good to go with that one. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I can't wait for domestic spending, though. I think he's supposed to be coming back later this week in the, was it the Mr. D Stakes at Arlington, the former Arlington Million?
Yep.
So that'll be fun to look forward to. Mike, speaking of things to look forward to, how about this horse, Knicks Go? He's kind of good, right? At 2 turns on dirt. Completely dominates the Whitney Stakes. Andrew and I both singled this horse in the pick 4 sequence, so we were able to get through it. Pretty much from the start, I thought this was going to be his. He had it won. Like from the, no. I'm just like, okay, we just got to wait for the race to finish. Swiss Skydiver, I thought, Red Ortiz Jr. did exactly what he was supposed to do, which was wait, get first run. Just didn't work. Knicks Go is really, really goddamn good, Mike. So my first burning question here for you regarding the Classic: will Knicks Go be the most likely single on Breeders' Cup weekend?
No.
Interesting. You think Gamine?
Well, I don't think people single the Breeders' Cup Classic as much. I don't think that singling the last leg in a sequence when it's that big of a race and there's that many named horses. I also think people get a little they overthink the Breeders' Cup Classic a lot. They want to pick the winner, but they don't want the winner to be chalk. And so I think you see a lot of people getting a little too creative in that race a lot of times. So do I think Knicks Go is the best single on Breeders' Cup Saturday? Probably. Do I think it's the most single horse? Probably not. Look, this was wildly impressive because the early fractions were just they were quick for this distance. You're not supposed to go 23:46 and be able to hold on in the way that Knicks Go did, and absolutely embarrassed the rest of the field. Really, if you look at it, didn't have much pressure early. I mean, Swiss Skydiver ran up on the inside early and kind of created a little bit of trouble going into the first turn. Clearly couldn't keep up with Knicks Go, and if she did, then she was going to be absolutely killed by the end of the race. So I totally understand why Irad kind of not backed out of that, but didn't ask her to go with Knicks Go, I think is the right way to put that. Knicks Go clears over and is able to just kind of run away from everybody else. I mean, I thought, and I put this on Twitter, I thought Swiss Skydiver was the second best horse in this race with everything that she went through to get into this position. You had a fully keyed up Silver State. You had a fully keyed up Maxfield who were pointing toward this race, and you had a Swiss Skydiver who was pointing toward a race 2 weeks ago, just out of quarantine, who has not run, who's coming off the bench, who's trying something new. I mean, just for her to run that well, I thought was pretty telling. And she, when you point back to who these horses have beaten, the most impressive win on this card outside of Knicks Go still goes to Swiss Skydiver beating Authentic in the Preakness.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think this with Swiss Skydiver, I mean, I'm willing to forgive every horse for losing this. Maxfield, he was up against it from a pace perspective. I thought actually ran, pretty decent for him to get up and get second. He never quit. Silver State, maybe the one I was least impressed with. I think we found out here, Mike. Maybe he isn't that level of a horse. He's not a Knicks Go or a Maxfield. Yeah, give him another year. Maybe at age 5 he can do it. Swiss Skydiver. Once she made her bid and it didn't work, I think she just kind of quit. When Knicks Go started taking off, I think it just broke her heart a little bit, and she faded off. By my standards, fell to his face right out of the gate, lost a shoe, never involved from there on. To me, that's a complete scratch off for him. So one burning bonus question for you. Which Breeders' Cup race should each of the also-rans point for? We'll start with Maxfield. I assume the Classic needs to be the goal for him, right?
I mean, I'd point for non-winners of 2 allowance if I was the connections, because I think that's about where this horse fits. Maybe an undercard grade 3. Where will they point to? They'll point to the Classic. He'll get that, and you should fade him. That's what you should do with Maxfield. Because let's face it, Maxfield looked great last time out, circling the field with this powerful move, running against nobody. Runs into Knicks Go, and Maxfield never had a chance in this race. And you could say, oh, well, the pace and blah, blah. Knicks Go went 46 up front. Maxfield should be able to close into that. And Maxfield was never a threat, not even an iota of a threat at any point during this race when he was pointing to it and was fully keyed up. No interest in Maxfield going forward against fields that contain any horse that is of quality. I mean, it's just this was the I've been against Maxfield for literally a year and a half now. This was the last straw to me where it's like, yep, nope, I'm right. Maxfield is a grade 2 horse. He's just not as good as these top-level grade 1 Classic horses. I'm
going to stick by this. I don't think he's a mile and a quarter horse. This was a mile and an eighth, but the San Diego handicap, when he lost to Idol and Express Train, Idol literally hasn't raced since then. Express Train's been okay, but he's California good for the older male dirt division. So I think that's the knock on him. He's a tremendous horse. We'd love to own him, but man, as far as winning a grade 1 race on the world stage like that, I'm with you. Let's move on. Let's talk about the, I just lost it. Where'd my thing go? Silver State was third. Should he point towards the Classic, or do you think this is more of a dirt mile horse?
I would send him dirt mile. I think that he's just overmatched in the classic division. You may get a lighter field in the dirt mile. To me, it's like you avoid Knicks Go if you're Silver State, right? And I think Knicks Go is definitely going to be pointing toward the classic. I think you're going to end up seeing Silver State in the mile, and I think that's where he fits. He just won the Met Mile, which is a huge Grade 1 there. Like I think that you should end up in the races that kind of fit your horse the best. I think this was a swing in a small field where you thought, hey, we're going to pick up a paycheck and see how good we are, and we found out how good we are, and let's take a step back and run in a Grade 1, really expensive, nice race in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Whoops. Ross says Maxfield was running against Dak Genials a race back. Dak Genials screwed me out of something. We don't talk about Dak Genials in this show. I think Silver State is perfect for the dirt mile because he's got 2 turnability, but he's got that the 1 turn mile speed. Like we saw him in the Met Mile, he looked fantastic if he gets the right trip. I also don't blame Asmussen for taking a shot. Imagine if he breaks the record in the Whitney. I mean, the only way I think things get better for him is if he wins to break the record in the Whitney with Silver State. I'm fine with that. Swiss Skydiver, we talked about. Should she go to the distaff, or do you think she's a classic horse?
I mean,
1.25 miles.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I think she's the one that you can make an argument for either. I guess. True. So personally, I would probably send her to the Classic because I think that in that field, she has a little bit better chance of cashing a big time paycheck. And I think the 1.25 miles is what she wants and makes a big difference for her. That being said, I mean, she's got probably a better chance at winning the distaff. So then you have to kind of decide, do I want to have the better chance at winning, the better chance of cashing a big paycheck? Do I want to go at the better distance? I mean, she's a little bit quirky because you'd rather run her at the Classic distance, but you'd rather run her against the distaff field, right?
The biggest question mark for me out of this is who should point where. If you're Brett Calhoun, where does By My Standards go? Do you point for the dirt mile? Because the 2 times he tried the 1.25 miles, he was 8th in last year's Breeders' Cup Classic, beaten 14, and then he was 12th in the 2019 Kentucky Derby. You can forgive the Kentucky Derby effort, but the Breeders' Cup Classic, I think, last year showed maybe 1.25 miles pushing. He is by Golden Sense, so you really have to wonder if a dirt mile, which that horse won twice, is what he's better suited for.
Well, we just talked about Silver State, and I mean, you can make an argument that By My Standards should have won the Met Mile, right? So maybe you point By My Standards to the mile. I think that By My Standards is another one where it's just he's a cut below the top tier Classic horses. We're all going to show up for the Breeders' Cup Classic, so I would point By My Standards toward the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Dennis says, knowing how Kenny McPeek with Swiss Skydiver, he'd run around the turf. You laugh. Kenny McPeek has said that she can run on turf. He said, I'm thinking about trying it sometime.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? I would never try and read Kenny McPeek's mind. That's just it's a book in a different language that none of us understand.
I saw a couple of people bringing up Monomoy Girl, and I failed to mention this on last Monday's show. She is planning to skip the Breeders' Cup. They're looking at targeting the Cigar Mile and the Pegasus World Cup. So pretty much they've said, we've won the Breeders' Cup distaff twice. She's not 1.25 miles horse, so we're not going to the Classic. Let's go after the Pegasus. Let's go after the Cigar Mile. Let's see if we can make some money, especially when a lot of the older handicap horses, the males, they'll be retired by that point or they'll be taking a break. So I think it's a pretty shrewd move by Brad Cox, your trainer. Also, that's going to lead to another one burning bonus question. Mike, does Brad Cox own a suit combination other than blue jacket and khaki pants?
You know, I realized who Brad Cox reminds me of.
Chet Summers?
Doug from the character from the
Oh my God! Yes.
Show Doug, where he opens up the closet and it's that green sweater vest and it's got the khakis and
the white shirt underneath every single one of them.
That is what Brad Cox's closet reminds me of. He's like Doug from that cartoon.
I saw this tweet from the Racing Onion and it made me laugh. And then I thought, you know what? That's a very apt description. We'll go back to the Classic. Some news just broke this morning. Mandaloon is now skipping the rest of the year. They magically found a sore foot 2 days after her stablemate Knicks Go runs like that in the Whitney. He is planning to run next year at H4 and at least target the $20 million Saudi Cup. But Mandaloon is now out. So Knicks Go is going to go to the Classic. He's the favorite. Essential Quality, you assume, is going to go that way as well, even though he's a Brad Cox horse. They have different owners. Hot Rod Charlie, we're not sure what's going on with him. It sounds like he got hurt, even though Doug O'Neill didn't explicitly say so, but he's skipping the Pacific Classic. Not a great sign, but let's just assume Hot Rod Charlie is still going to the Classic and is going to be fine. Is Knicks Go your top pick? Do you want to single him there? Are you interested in Essential Quality or Hot Rod Charlie as a mix?
No interest in Hot Rod Charlie. Hot Rod Charlie is not a good enough horse to beat those two. I love Hot Rod Charlie. The story is incredible. I don't want to knock Hot Rod Charlie in any way, shape, or form, but the horse is just not good enough to beat those two top horses without a lot of things going right like it did in the Derby, and that's why he was able to beat Essential Quality there. The smaller fields, the trips are just going to be not that drastically different. I think he's better than him. I think Nick's Go and Essential Quality, the only two you can really use right now. You have like Max Player and Idol and some of these other horses that are quote unquote the contenders. And I look at that and I'm like, yeah, not really interested. So I think a lot of it is just going to break down to, okay, how do you want to play this? Do you want to play it in a cold exacta? Do you want to try and start figuring out how to play just doubles? I mean, to me, if you get Maxfield in that race, which I hope we do, and you get Nick's Go in that race, which I think you definitely will, you get Essential Quality in that race, which again, I think you will. I think a big Nick's Go Essential Quality exacta is how you make money, because you leave Maxfield out, you take the two better horses, you allow Essential Quality to hopefully run into it. You're hopefully Essential Quality is a little bit closer to the pace. And then you play a small reversed exacta Essential Quality over Nick's Go, and you hope you run in the big exacta, because I think that's where you create value. Is you're going to have three heavy favorites. One of them is a clunker. The other two are pretty good horses. I think that's the way you try and make some money on the race.
I like the ice cold exacta. Nick's Go over Essential Quality. Give Brad Cox the barn exacta. It's worth noting that the last 4 3-year-olds to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, all trained by Bob Baffert. You have to go back to 2008 to find the last time a non-Baffert horse won the Classic at age 3. Baffert did have Life is Good, who's coming up in the chat quite a bit here. Life is Good now currently with Todd Pletcher. He's aiming for the 7-furlong Alan Jerkin Stakes to end the Saratoga meet. From there, Mike, it's kind of wide open to see where he goes. I personally don't think this is a classic horse. I don't want to send him there. I would love to see him go, though, because I think he's going to take a ton of money, especially if he's got 2 wins going into that being his 3rd start.
I will reserve my opinion until we see him run a couple times. I could be talked into betting that horse. I mean, this was this was Bob Baffert's next Justify, right? To just put it into context, right? That was how good Life is Good was supposed to be and was showing early in its career. Then you had the injury that sidelined it, kept it out for a long time. Now we're in the Pletcher barn. Not like Pletcher's a bad trainer here. Pletcher's won a Classic or 2. I wouldn't be shocked if this horse comes back, runs huge, comes back, and if the horse stretches out to, let's say, 1 1/8, and you see a massive run in that second effort, I could be talked into playing Life is Good in the Classic. I think that horse has the upside or the ability that we've seen, that if the distance isn't an issue and the stamina is there with a 3-race progression, I could understand why people want to play this horse there.
If you're the owners, let's say that he wins 2 races in New York and goes to the Classic. Do you keep him with Pletcher? Do you enter him under Pletcher? Do you switch him back to Baffert because now we're back in California and Baffert is Baffert? I mean, what do you do in that situation?
Depends why you took him from Baffert in the first place. If you took him in Baffert specifically,
because he couldn't race in California.
Well, was it because he couldn't race in California because you didn't want him in the Baffert barn?
I'm sorry, he couldn't race in New York. I'm sorry.
Right. So but there are still stakes races in California that he could have run in. Right. I mean, like if you wanted to keep him in the Baffert barn, you could have just kept him in California. So I believe that the intent for moving him from one to the other was more of everything lingering with Baffert and the suspicion of what's going on there versus specifically wanting to have him run in New York. So I expect that Life is Good is with Pletcher for good. And I expect that Pletcher asked that question when he got the horse, because you also don't want to be Pletcher and put this horse through the paces, get it 2 big races into it, and then transfer it back to Baffert for the Classic. That doesn't make a ton of sense either.
Some more updates on the Classic division real quick. Dr. Post pointing to the Pacific Classic for Todd Pletcher, and he's also looking to send Happy Saver to the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So as far as Nick's Go, it's supposed to be one of those 2 races. He's supposed to make one more start before the Classic. One of those 2 races will be up in the air. If I'm Brad Cox, I'm going to go to the Pacific Classic because A, you're getting a trip over Del Mar, B, it's $1 million purse, and C, it's a bunch of California dirt horses. You don't think he can't beat those horses for a cool $1 million purse?
I like that plan too, because then you get to see if he likes that track. I mean, we've seen some wonderful horses, see Arrogate, hate Del Mar. So I think it makes a lot of sense to get one over the track and figure out exactly what you're dealing with before you have the Breeders' Cup there. Because, I mean, you're not skipping the Breeders' Cup, but it may change what race you want. If he's struggling getting the Pacific Classic distance on the Del Mar track, maybe you do compare back to the mile and you go in the dirt mile versus going the longer Breeders' Cup Classic distance. So I would run him once over that track just to see how it goes.
Dennis with a great question here, too. What do you do with Art Collector? He wins the Aladar Stakes for Bill Mott, first time with Mott Barn. He was with Tommy Drury Jr. last year, and it sounds like the owner, Bruce Lunsford, really wanted to compete in New York this summer, which is why he made the barn change. He got a really strong buyer. I think he got 102 for winning the Aladar. Very strong, but it's Art Collector. I don't want anything to do with him with the Classic, but Dennis's question, what do you see your answer? I
mean, is he back? Yes. That was the best version of Art Collector that we have seen in a while, right? I mean, since the really going into the whole 3-year-old progression races. So Yeah, our collector's back. Now, how good is our collector is the next question you got to ask. Right now, I'd say a notch below someone like Nick's Go. But our collector probably has more upside than someone like Maxfield at this point. So I'm a little more intrigued by our collector than I am other horses. Do I think our collector can beat Nick's Go? Probably not right now, but this is one of those that maybe you can get a price and get third in a trifecta, things like that, if you do end up seeing our collector in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
I know you wanted to talk about one burning question here from Saratoga. A couple shenanigans happening over the weekend, Mike. On Saturday in the Lure Stakes, Value Proposition is the favorite for the Lure, headed to the turf course from the dirt. He loses a shoe. They end up delaying the race for a bit, deciding with Chad Brown that they're going to continue to run, but only for purse money. And then on Sunday, Jose Ortiz, boy, just when you think that the storm calms down on the Ortiz brothers and their collusion, he's on the number 4 horse, You Should Be Dancing, in the third race, has the win, looks like he's a clear winner, stands up about just inside the 16th pole. Javier Castellano sneaks right by him and gets the head victory. So my one burning question from the Saratoga shenanigans, which was the worst shenanigan of those two?
Look, this is a tough one because they're both pretty shenanigan-y. I'm going to say Value Proposition was the worst shenanigan of those two because scratching the horse. So what happened is a Value Proposition lost a shoe crossing over from the dirt to the turf course. And they didn't want to do a shoe repair on the turf course. And they didn't want to delay the race. So they decided to ask Chad Brown if he would like to run the horse for purse money only. This is Naira. If he'd like to run the horse for purse money only. And Chad Brown said, sure, why not? You know what? And if you're Chad Brown, you have connections. Sure, why not? A lot of horses run races with 3 shoes. They lose a shoe during the race. I remember Gunrunner came back with a shoe in his freaking tail when he won
5
the
shoes, yeah.
Yeah, when he won the Whitney one year. So it's not like it's that odd or unusual for a horse to finish a race with 3 shoes. The problem with this is not Chad Brown. It's the better. I mean, first off, they didn't give much time to re-architect your tickets. Now, pick 5 and pick 6 players weren't that upset because the 5 horse ends up winning, Flavius, who was the favorite. So everyone who had the 3 moved on. But the problem with that is that everyone who had the 3 now has the 5. And if you're fading the 5 because you like the 3, you end up with the 5 anyway. Everyone's alive. It's one of the reasons why this sequence didn't pay shit from a pick 5 perspective, ending with Nick's Go. And the next sequence paid big money with that 21-1 shot. All of that being said, the thing is that even if you run a horse for purse money only, they affect the race shape. The 12-horse Temple was hung 4 wide on both turns because it was outside of the 3-horse Value Proposition in this case. That helped Flavius go wire to wire. There's all these different things that Value Proposition did in the race that affected the trip of other horses that people bet on that didn't allow them to get the trip that they wanted. That, to me, is just inexcusable because, look, your customer are the bettors. I get that Chad Brown wants to run the horse. The connections want to run the horse. Totally understand that. You're either running with your number up there and you do a shoe repair in the paddock and you take the time, or you get the horse out and you scratch him because it affects every other horse in the race. You're pandering to the wrong person. You're taking care of the trainer and the ownership group, and you are screwing the bettors. And that is consistently what we've seen, and that is what you should not be doing. It should be thinking the other way around. How can I do the right thing for the bettors? And if the trainer and the owner want to deal with the problem, then they can do that. But you got to think about the bettors first. So
I guess my question here is what is the best solution in that situation? Because it's unfortunate. It's post time. It's like we got shit to do. They're on a TV schedule. What would have been the best solution for you?
You say to Chad Brown, you can put another shoe on in the paddock or you scratch the horse. And if you put a shoe on, you got 5 minutes and you're not going to get a warm up when you get back out here because we have to keep things moving along. Right. I think those are the only 2 logical options here. Right. Because if you run the horse, you're screwing over the bettors, period. And if you scratch the horse, then you give people a couple minutes to get through it. You have to move the gate numbers and then people can re-architect their tickets. So, I mean, I think if you either run it as is with 3 shoes, but then some people are going to complain, although I think that was probably the fairest thing to do is say, hey, look, the horse is 2-1. It's got 3 shoes. Do you want it or not? Right. And then, or you fix the shoe, you scratch it. But I think the worst thing you can do is run for purse money only.
I'm with you. They said on the TV broadcast, and I don't know how true this really is, but they said that when the news broke about what happened, they lost a shoe. They're like, well, they have equipment, right? At the gate. Like, yeah, they should be able to repair that, no problem. So I was waiting for them to just take a couple minutes, shoe the horse, let him walk around. It's going to stay on. Okay, good. And then we load. I'm with you. I think that would have been the best solution. However, I think we'd be very remiss if we didn't at least just take a quick look at the shenanigans that happened on Sunday. I mean, this race is, if you had the 4, and from the way Aaron tweeted, I think he had the 4 on top. He's right here on the lead.
Yeah,
You
someone who
watch
had
the
the
feed.
4 and not the 2. This wasn't great.
Look at this. It's a little choppy on the live stream, so I apologize. But you should be able to see right there. Jose Ortiz stops riding, stands up. Oh shit, Javier's coming! Ah! And then he gets caught. It's not even that Irad didn't even catch him. That's what I think is the funniest part. Is if Irad beats him, we have a whole new conversation. The fact that it was Javier that came up and got him. I don't know. What do you make of that situation, Mike?
So this one, I don't think I'm as upset about. I mean, I bet I had I had the 1, I had the 6, I had the 4. I did not have the 2, so I got screwed here with this horse getting caught. Man, like I see this and I don't feel as bad on the collusion side, because what clearly happens is that the 2 horse who's in the lead crosses over on the 1. Irad clearly yells something as his brother's crossing over on him, because you see Jose stand up and look back, and that is why I think he looked back. I think Irad yelled something like, "I'm going down," or something like that, and that's what he was doing. I don't think he thought Irad was getting by him. I thought he was worried he cut his brother off and put him on the deck more than he was getting by him, because I think at that point Irad couldn't get by him. I don't think Irad thought he could, but it got real tight in there. So if you look at the head-on, I mean, there was an inquiry into the 1 and the 4, or I'm sorry, the 1 and the 2. No, the 1 and the 4. The 4 definitely came over on the 1, and the 1 definitely checks. And I think that's the reason why you saw Jose look back. So, look, I agree that they do some shenanigans. I don't think this was a shenanigan situation. I think he thought he put his brother on the turf.
I'm watching the head-on right now. Yeah, he was drifting out, coming towards Irad a little bit. Drifted out some more. Oh, I see it right there. Yeah, he did. He did because yeah. I see what it is. I should put this on. Sorry, this is really terrible radio. Let me share this real quick.
And so it's like one of those things where like it looks like Irad thinks he's going to go down. He checks pretty good on the 1 horse too, who's coming up. So I think it's one of those situations where when you see that the 4 horse come out, I think Jose thought he put his brother on the turf. I think that's why he stopped and slowed down. Now, you know, that's one of those situations where it's unfortunate. You know, if that was any other rider, would Jose have looked back? So there's other things that you could talk about this situation, right? But I don't think this was one of those shenanigans. I think this was one of there's just, hey, I think I put my brother on the ground here.
So Jose Ortiz is right here on the, well, it's not showing up on here. So he's on the right. If you see the 3 horses in the front there, the orange cap in the middle. Yep, white blinkers. Orange cap in the middle is Irad, and yellow cap on the outside, that's Javier. And you'll see right about here, even though Jose's going right-handed, the horse drifts out, right there, cuts him off, and that's, yeah. Jose stood up at that point, as soon as he reared out. I think you're right, Mike. I'll give it to you on that one. I think Jose is honestly lucky that Javier is the one that beat him and not Irad.
Oh, well, I don't think he would have stood up if it was anyone else's voice.
That's true.
That's the thing. I think if you cut off Castellano there and Irad goes by on the outside, he's not standing up. I think he's still sitting and riding. I think because it's his brother's voice screaming about it, I think that's what caused him to stand up and look back.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for joining Mike and I talk about a really fun, exciting weekend at Saratoga. Lots of great memories, some shenanigans, lots of fun to keep us entertained for next weekend. Mike, I think we should head back to Saratoga. I'm feeling a little hot there. I know you've been doing pretty good. You had to cut the freaking 21-1 euro kind of knocked you off. But overall, how are the Samo Bombs doing at Saratoga?
We had a decent weekend last weekend. Or 2 weekends ago. Last weekend we hit a couple tickets, but nothing big. That 21-1 shot, that was a $5,000 miss for us. So that 1 horse would have been nice. We got a lot of pick 4s and pick 5s on, but been seeing the ball pretty well. Hit a couple nice pick 3s at least. So we keep it going there. This weekend's going to be a huge weekend. Anyone who wants to try tournaments or is into big tournaments, the Spa and Surf Classic is this weekend. So Horse Tourneys has a $300,000 guaranteed tournament where every race from both Saratoga and Del Mar is mandatory. So monster weekend there. And then 2 weeks, we got the NHC in Las Vegas. So big tournaments coming up, lots to play there. So yeah, I mean, I'll have picks for Saratoga and Del Mar up for both days. And it should be exciting, man. Hopefully we can get a big number home this weekend. 4-Star
Dave weekend over at Saratoga. We got that and the Saratoga special. Some people in the chat were talking about Wit, by the way, the 2-year-old. Look out for that one if he shows up in the Saratoga special. So I got a feeling if he does show up there, Mike and I are probably going to use him.
Yeah. I would. He has a chance to sweep all of the 2-year-old Saratoga graded stakes races. It's pretty incredible. I don't think anyone's done that in a minute.
Speaking of sweep, where is it? Scott Thomas, where are you? You were way back in the chat earlier here. Scott Thomas said that he swept, I'm going to see if I can find it. He swept all 12 races. There it is. Swept the 12 race card Saturday at Saratoga. Never done that before, thanks to the Racing Dude's Whitney guide, or he wouldn't have had the 21-1 9-horse. Sorry, Mike, to rub it into you. But hey, Scott, congratulations. Whenever you can sweep a card anywhere, especially Saratoga. A 12-race card on a Saturday at Saratoga, a big day. That's phenomenal. Congratulations to you.
That also means he had the 5 horse in the second race, which I thought was like there was one of the 2 Diodoro horses over the weekend that ran awfully big. We'll just leave it there. Stay Found, who won at 11-1, I think, in the second race, and looked like Secretariat out in that track. So yeah, that was a tough one to get to too.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say I would have used it because it's Diodoro, but that's a bad reason to have to use a horse. But I would have used it. Maybe that's why Scott used him too, because he's like, well, listen, Magic Mike. Magic always talks about Diodoro, so maybe that's why he had to do it. I don't know. I'll take credit for it.
Yeah, I appreciate all the comments in the chat too. But loving to see everybody communicating and throwing those out there. So everyone, we try and doing this every day or every Monday and Thursday at 3:30. No, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. And so we'll try and get back to that schedule here. I am going to be back home this week, so we'll get back to the normal schedule hopefully this week.
Oh, you got to leave Saratoga. I'm sorry. You had fun?
It's kind of a bummer. I little tear dropped as I was walking out of the track on Sunday, the last day I was there. But we'll be back sometime soon. I'm excited. This is going to be a epic here end of the year. I'm going to head up to Canterbury. Going to be at Del Mar. We've got the couple of big tournaments in the middle of there. We got the very big one, and we got the spa and surf one. So exciting end of the year here from a horse racing perspective. Can't wait to do a little more horse racing travel. Oh, and then the NHC in Vegas. So yeah, pretty crazy 4 months here coming home.
We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to tackle Saratoga. Let's see if we can both get a ticket home on that one. Mike, no more vacation for you. We got to try and get these tickets going.
We could do Arlington too.
I thought about that, Mike. So here's why I'm torn. Two reasons. One, because Domestic Spending is running Arlington this weekend. So the last time we did Arlington a couple years ago, Chad Brown won all 4 stakes races, and I think it paid like $12. Concern number one. Concern number two, I really, really hate what Churchill Downs Incorporated is doing to Arlington, and it's really hard for me to try and promote them because if they're just giving up on it, I don't want to give Churchill Downs some money. But let us know if you want to do Arlington on Saturday instead of the 4-star Dave. Let us know. We're men of the people. We'll come to you guys if that's what you want.
Yep. So I agree. Let's do Saratoga. Let's not give the CDI the money. And yes, I'm planning on coming to Canterbury for September 18th, I think it is, or 16th. They're doing a 10-seat BC tournament that day. So I'm hopefully going to be there in Canterbury for that tournament. And
of course, to just play all the Ruben Fuentes horses. He's been doing pretty good at Canterbury.
All the Rubens.
Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kellord. He is at Summerbomb 18, number 1, number 8, Corporate Overlords, at Racing_Dudes. Head over to racenews.com if there's any replays, recaps you want to see more of. Got it covered for you over there. We'll be back on Thursday, as I mentioned, to tackle, sounds like Saratoga's late pick 4, including the 4-star Dave, which is Breeders' Cup winning year, for the Turf Mile. Stormy's been training pretty well. We'll see if we use her. Spoiler alert, I will. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.